But I dropped by this morning just to tell you that there's a king, and that king is calling you. And his promise is greater than your pain. You may live in Lodabar, which means nothing. And folk might call you Mephibosheth, which means shame. You may feel like a nobody traveling through a nothing of a world. That's all right. God knows what to do with nothing. Matter of fact, God does his best work in the middle of nothing. Because the Bible begins with that story. The Bible says that God stepped in the middle of nowhere and God spoke to nothing. And everything that you see with your eyes used to be a nothing in the middle of nowhere. But when God speaks to your nothing of a life, when God speaks to your nothing of a situation, when God speaks to nobody, that nobody becomes a somebody. God can speak to you. There's a king calling you. He made you and now he's calling you. I know you're broke and disgusted, but the king is calling you. I know you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, but the king is calling you. I know you're wearied and worn out, but the king is calling you. Mephibosheth, the king is calling you. But not only is the king calling you, Mephibosheth, there is a king inside of you. Mephibosheth looks up, has to shake himself, because the next thing he knows, he's standing in the palace before David himself. Anybody here other than me has ever thought about where you started out? One day I was sitting in the balcony of the Kennedy Auditorium watching a show on the stage next to Mrs. Obama and President Obama, chilling there together in the balcony because that's how I roll. But I thought about that little nappy-head boy who grew up in Caton Homes housing projects on the west side of Savannah, Georgia. I sat there acting like I was used to doing this all the time. But deep down in my mind, I had to juxtapose where I started and where I was sitting. And I realized that there was a king who had called me by my name. I could sit next to the president because I answered the king, and he pulled me out of the housing projects, put me in a high place, set me next to high people. Doesn't matter where you start out, it's about where you're going. There's a king calling your name.